It's really a pleasure to be here. A beautiful day in Madrid, a beautiful campus, a wonderful group of people committed to addressing a very, very serious problem, not only in this country, but in the region and many parts of the world. I'm really grateful that so many of you would take this time today to be part of an important gathering, a terrific mix of people, but also meant to be a small and intimate group so that we can really have discussion and make an impact on this important topic. I want to thank each of you for taking time out of your busy schedules to spend the day with us here today at Universidad Europea. It's a very important gathering, equally important this group of people, and I'm honored and privileged to be here with each of you. I would like to recognize the government officials who are here with us today and personally thank each of you for taking the time and making a great effort to join us. I also would like to acknowledge my Laureate colleagues who are here with us today from across Europe, and most importantly, the thousands of Laureate students who will be watching today's summit live from classrooms and auditoriums in Casablanca, Istanbul, Lisbon, and in Paris as well. And of course, we have our wonderful students all over the campus, and many of them here today helping us with this event. A very special thanks and greeting to those students. We really appreciate all of your work, and of course, we're here for you. Some of our students are in the audience as well. Thanks so much for sharing your special campus with us today. Later this afternoon, President Clinton will join us on this stage. In addition to his extraordinary work and travels around the globe trying to help some of the world's most pressing problems, President Clinton also serves as the honorary chancellor of the Laureate International Universities Network. In this role, he offers us advice on social responsibility, youth leadership, and increasing access to higher education. The issue of youth leadership is of the utmost importance to the President, and I know that he will have many important insights to share and will also appreciate the opportunity to learn from you. We also have the great fortune of welcoming Prince Felipe to our summit, and I very much look forward to his participation this afternoon. As some of you may know, Laureate is an international community of universities that encourages learning without boundaries. Our purpose is to offer higher education with a unique multicultural perspective and to prepare our students for exciting careers and lifelong achievement. We believe that when our students succeed, countries prosper and societies benefit. So I want to start by making sure you see the map of Laureate that we have here representing the 70 accredited campus-based universities and online programs that we offer as well. We have almost 800,000 students who are part of an academic community that spans 29 countries throughout North America, Latin America, Europe, North Africa, Asia, and the Middle East. Here in Europe, we operate 24 universities. You see some of the beautiful campuses that we have in other European countries in the region. We offer hundreds of undergraduates, master's, and doctoral degree programs in a vast number of professional disciplines, the sciences, and the arts. We operate 19 medical schools across the globe where our students provide free or very inexpensive services to 250,000 people a year who might not otherwise have been able to afford access to quality health care. Each of the universities in the Laureate Network has its own history, culture, and institutional profile and is guided by local leadership. Yet they all share a central mission to be here for good. We want to operate with an unwavering commitment and an eye towards permanence and purpose. Universidad Europea is the flagship institution in our network and is the very first university that we partnered with when we started Laureate more than 14 years ago. We currently have more than 16,000 students studying at La Europea. The next generation of physicians, designers, engineers, architects, and teachers are being educated here. We've been very fortunate to have 4 different Nobel laureates who've been granted honorary doctorates from this university, including Mario Vargas Llosa, Nelson Mandela, Shirin Ebadi, and Lech Walesa. So we're all in good company to be here today. Now, La Europea has a remarkable track record when it comes to the successful employment and employability of its graduates. More than 90% of our graduates are employed within 12 months of graduation. And we recognize in this very, very difficult environment here, this is a remarkable accomplishment. On average, the graduates of La Europea make nearly 40% more than their Spanish peers in their first permanent job. Miguel Carmelo, my colleague here in Europe, who oversees all of our activities in this region, is going to speak more about Universidad Europea later this morning. But for now, I'd like to transition to the topic at hand, the current state of youth unemployment here in Europe. There's no shortage of data that proves that we're at a crisis level. According to the World Bank, more than 260 million young people are, in their words, economically inactive. The OECD has reported that the number of jobless youth has risen 30% since 2007. The United Nations recently issued a report that showed that young people were 3 times more likely to be unemployed than adults. And in Greece and here in Spain, more than 1 in 2 young people are jobless. The social and economic results from this issue is staggering. It's estimated that in 2011, the European economy shed more than 1% of its GDP, or $150 billion, due to the loss of economic activity of its youth. If there is such a thing as a silver lining in this trying economy, it is the fact that educated youth fare much better than those who lack a degree. Mario Simon from Millward Optimor will speak later about some interesting new research that his firm has conducted on our behalf in Europe that underscores more than ever the relevance of education. I know I may be stating the obvious when I say that there's no easy solution to this problem at hand. The goal of today is not to solve this problem. If we thought we could do that just today, I think we would all be very optimistic. But instead, we want to listen and to learn from each other. We've assembled a remarkable group of employers, government officials, thought leaders in education, all with the hope that what we discuss today can be taken back to your colleagues, back to boardrooms, classrooms, and universities across Europe. I'd like to focus the balance of my time this morning on 2 concepts that I think are going to have a real impact on youth employment. First is a complementary approach to the traditional curriculum and assessment that we think about in education. And this is about what I call the assessment gap, and it relates to job readiness. The second is a disruptive technology with the potential to impact labor markets that I think we should all be following very carefully. First, a few words on this assessment gap. My definition of an assessment gap is different from the typical skills gap, where we talk about technical skills that students may or may not have. We all acknowledge that this skills gap is indeed a major factor in the current unemployment crisis and something that surely will arise in our employer panel. But instead, I'm really interested in how we can assess the career-ready attributes or professional competencies, which are often perceived as soft, but could be more indicative of future career success. And in my discussions with employers, they're often very keenly focused on these topics. While the completion or failure of specific topics and courses can have a clear and demonstrated outcome for a student, there's no similar metric for the core skills that go beyond solving a calculus problem or writing a great essay. Prospective employers are quick to ask a student about their field of study, their class rank, or the famous grade point average, GPA. But what about a young person's willingness to take constructive feedback or their ability to work well in teams? What about their demonstration of leadership or character or values? The challenge is that there is no current or universal way for a student to present anything similar to a transcript or a grade point average that demonstrates a mastery of these types of attributes. If we had a good way to measure peer feedback, for example, or observational data from faculty on things like teamwork, communication skills, and leadership qualities, it could be a very powerful way to lead to a better match between those looking for work and those in need of a job. Put another way, employers are almost always eager to check references on those that they hire. But references are typically based on previous employers. And for a young person who's looking for his or her first full-time job, they're at the starting line without a measurable track record. If you asked a university to provide a reference on a young person, what would they say? What if universities could issue these types of references? What if instead of just relying on written exam, a student's aptitude was evaluated by their peers? What if universities began to prioritize the instruction of these professional competencies in the same way they do the standard curriculum? I'll give you an example of this. we have a typical grade point average report card. And this is what so many people are used to getting. Maybe it's not quite as old as this one. We tried to pick the best example that we could provide that would most graphically illustrate how poorly we are trying to assess and provide information to employers. Look at this great old report card showing the grade point average and the number of hours studied by a student. It's almost machine-like, and it's not really something that would give an employer the information that they would need to decide who they would want to hire. So instead, we're working on a concept of a Laureate professional assessment. Instead of a GPA, it could be an LPA. And this is something still very early in our development, but we're extremely interested in doing this. And it could look something like what you see here, a way of assessing problem solving, experience with internships, the experience and the way they're perceived in the learnings on ethics and character, their ability for focusing their time and effort wisely, working in teams, communications. These are other ideas that we think could be very important. So as an example, we have a public speaking course available at many of our universities and a directive that our students should take these programs regardless of if they're studying in our dental school or majoring in economics. They need to take a course like this so that they can be better prepared and more confident when it comes time to present themselves and their ideas. We're also developing a signature course around entrepreneurship, which we believe will help all students navigate the job market. And we're experimenting with courses that will be rooted in experiential learning as opposed to theoretical teaching. Here at La Europea, the academic team has introduced a level of real-world learning to the curriculum that includes a mandatory internship period for all students, as well as a course that covers the key life skills that are fundamental to landing a permanent job. So I want to go back. Can we go back to the slides that showed the old office? We're going to challenge our technology team. One more. There, right there. Thank you. So the current notion of work and a job is beginning to change, and varied employment opportunities may be on the horizon for more and more young people. The classic idea of going to an office and being surrounded by other people is changing rapidly. The days of working for a company for your entire life, receiving your pension when you're done, and a gold watch at retirement, these are long gone. Instead, today's young people will have many jobs throughout their careers, and many will be self-employed. Self-employment is really a very important topic, and I'd like to use my remaining few minutes to talk about this, because I believe it's going to be a very powerful trend for better and potentially for worse for our students. It's not new. Self-employment isn't new. The idea that you go from this workplace working with other people to perhaps just sitting by yourself with your iPad and your phone communicating with other people. But many professions do lend themselves to self-employment, such as healthcare practitioners and those in creative professions such as design. Both of these fields have grown dramatically over the past 20 years. Professional services such as architecture, engineering, law, and accounting, they're all often conducted as partnerships, small businesses, or sole proprietorships. Also, many big companies, reluctant to take on the risk of hiring full-time workers, are eager to use part-time contractors. The rise of entrepreneurship over the past few decades, especially in the technology sector, has spawned many small businesses. So whether self-employment means finding work just for yourself or building and managing a small team, it still requires certain skills that most universities just don't teach. This includes financial literacy, organizational skills, as I mentioned before, presentation skills that would allow you to confidently express yourself and differentiate your service or product from many others. And strong teamwork, because you may end up working with different team members from the client or from outside contractors like you. Now, the ultimate expression of this type of self-employment is the matching of work and workers through internet services. This is a modern version of the old piecework model where factory workers were paid for each article of clothing that they sewed. Now, this is a way of ensuring that those who work the hardest and most productively get rewarded, but it also introduces a level of cruel market efficiency. And because the piecework today often involves work on computers, the competitors may often be workers in developing countries which are thousands of miles away from the customer. Thus, the possibility of work is open for millions of knowledge workers in emerging markets, while the reality of competition and marginal employment impacts the quality of workers in developed markets. So I want to explain this concept. I'm going to move to another slide for you. And this is an example of a new approach of crowd working, which I'll tell you about in just a moment. This approach is being used to tap into talent across the globe to solve difficult problems and to match job tasks with the individuals most qualified to complete them. More simply, it's bringing the work to the worker instead of the worker to the work. The match between the individual and the job is guided solely by the individual's ability to finish the task successfully and not by geographic or cultural boundaries. So you see here an example of how online services will take work and route it to the workers, then recombine the work, quality assure it, and bring it back to the customer who wants that work done. And I'm going to give you some more examples of how this is working. So for example, we talk about the number of crowd workers expanding by more than 100% every year, 60% of crowd workers living in North America and Europe. I'll give you a few more examples of this. Amazing stories are now being told of young people in the slums of India rising out of poverty through their active participation in marketplaces such as this. Of equal interest, this technology has made it mainstream and is an employment match for those in need all over, including in developed markets. 60%, as this slide illustrates, of crowd workers live in North America and Europe, and nearly 50% have bachelor's degrees. So crowdsourcing microwork sites like Amazon's Mechanical Turk have hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of tasks in need of a match. One popular site directly bills itself as putting the underemployed talent of the world to work. Another well-established site called Crowdflower claims to have over 800 million tasks that have been submitted by 4 million users. Odesk says that 1.5 million jobs were posted on their site in 2012, and more than 35 million hours of work have been logged with them since they began matching jobs with job seekers. 99 Designs is another service like this that is up and running here in Spain, and so far almost 250,000 design jobs have been completed. While these sites will not disrupt the current traditional employer model soon, there's no doubt that this type of disruptive innovation could be a force for change with positive and negative consequences, and we need to be prepared because this is the direction that it's going. Much like the internet did for information and sharing and knowledge, this online marketplace could revolutionize employment. The number of crowdsourcing workers is exploding. WorkLab, which is an employment research organization here in Europe, projects that employees working on contracts, short-term in nature, could represent up to 50% of all employees by 2020. Large multinational corporations like IBM, Newell Rubbermaid, and AT&T have now implemented their own career microsites of this nature. These sites are more than a force for change for employers. They're a wake-up call that young people must not only be career-ready when they graduate, but must be ready for a changed career. Young people must now prepare to be self-employed with a solid understanding of what it takes to be entrepreneurial. They don't each have to be entrepreneurs, but they need to be entrepreneurial. While the current employment picture here in Europe for young people is quite complex and very severe, it will gradually improve as economic conditions improve. But the nature of work and the type of preparation needed will be forever changed. And working on behalf of the universities, this is really our focus, to make sure that we're modernizing our approach, thinking about where work is going, what employers will need, and how we can make sure that our students are well prepared. In closing, I want to just say that we want to remember what a powerful asset we have in the passion and energy of our young people. All of us here in this room are in a position to directly impact young people and to help them actualize their ambitions and abilities. Again, I want to thank you all for being here, and I very much look forward to a thoughtful and productive exchange of ideas. It's my pleasure now to introduce Miguel Carmelo. Miguel has done an extraordinary job building and leading this truly great university and now overseeing the 24 universities that Laureate has in the Europe region. Let me introduce Miguel Carmelo.
Buenos días a todos. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Doug. I appreciate you being here and your thoughtful introduction. I would like to thank all of you for being here today at this forum hosted by Universidad Europea. I thank you for your active presence, your willingness to work together in the search of solution to the main problem facing Europe, unemployment, especially that which is affecting our younger people. From the point of view of a university whose main task is to educate people for a professional career and prepare them for a better world, I would like to express my appreciation to representatives of the business world. Without the guiding vision of employer, our society has no way of knowing what knowledge and skill will be required. I would also like to thank and acknowledge the presence of representatives from various European governments. We need their awareness and sensitivity to the needs of citizens and build the path to make employment possible. Furthermore, I express my gratitude to the leaders in the field of education who have joined us today, those who established the vision for the future education which can lead us towards improving the employability of our youth, helping us to prepare them to better serve the needs of society. And of course, I also give thanks to the great leaders who support this forum, who I am sure will serve as a source of inspiration in the dialogue on youth employment in Europe. Thank you, President Clinton. How wonderful it is for this university to be honored by your presence once again. And thank you, His Royal Highness, the Prince of Asturias, for accepting to chair this event. For those of my generation who attended university during the Spanish transition period, the role of the monarchy was crucial for the consolidation of democracy. In the same way, we can now foresee this same role of the monarchy for the new needs of the current generation of university students. This forum, the Laureate Summit on Youth and Jobs in Europe, was created in response to the serious economic crisis we have been experiencing in recent years. Against this backdrop of socio-economic uncertainty, there have been a number of social changes that have led to a genuine transformation. After the Second World War, the welfare state was established in Europe mainly thanks to the rise of a consumer middle class. Great social benefits arose, such as social parity, freedom, solidarity, and citizens' comfort. This was just great. But nowadays it is much more difficult to afford it. Demographic changes and the lack of financial resources imply that we probably need to evolve from this welfare state into a welfare society, in which the state and society need to work closer together to achieve the optimum level of welfare. Citizens will assume greater responsibilities and will become partners in managing the resources, enhancing the efficiency of the system. As that Becker spoke of earlier, one of the pressing concerns for all of us is the staggering employment situation here in Europe. However, in spite of the effects of this crisis we face, terrible as they are, institutions of higher education have a real opportunity to embrace the crisis and to play a role of critical and fundamental importance. Let me explain. The creation of an educational system designed to enhance the employability of its students requires new incentives and structure. This system, in order to guarantee more successful career for graduates, should emphasize three factors. First, creativity and innovation. We must take action. We have maintained an educational system in which good ideas never come to fruition. Active participation is essential. Second, entrepreneurship. We must encourage an entrepreneurial spirit and change our mindset. While the majority of Spanish young people would like to be civil servants, in other countries, the majority wants to start their own business. It is therefore important to support and encourage young people to be self-starters, because fear of failure should never hinder a business idea. On this point, why not reward failure as a preliminary phase on the way to success? As noted by Sir Winston Churchill, success is the ability to go from one failure to another with no loss of enthusiasm. And lastly, we need to bring education in line with the labor market in order to achieve a successful educational model that improves employability of our students and trains young people to become job creators. The university should be open to everybody, everywhere, and in every moment, whether it is in person or online, for young people or working adults, contributing to the lifelong learning aspiration of many citizens nowadays. But in order for the education to meet this expectation, we need to rethink the role of higher education should play in a modern society. Universities must not be elitist, but rather international, practical, and accessible to all age groups. What's more, they got to be understood as having a career-oriented approach, meaning that the advanced career and technical education and dual education should get the recognition they deserve. When we talk about university, what comes to mind are the latest headlines from the sector: budget cuts, lack of resources. It's ironic that universities always be associated with economic potential, while their management continues to be based on rigid, archaic systems. We need to be forward-thinking and come to terms with the labor market and social demands. Ultimately, we need to manage our university as modern, dynamic organization that set goals in terms of performance and measure the professional success of our graduates. Of course, we also need an academic model that catalyzes these goals, a model that revolves around the students. Students must have a voice. As quoted by Nelson Mandela, education is the most powerful weapon we have to change the world. To boost employment in Europe, we need a leading, highly trained workforce. So the next question becomes, how do we prepare our young people to meet this challenge head-on? The answer, again, is to be found in education, hard work, and high standards. We want young people who are educated and believe in what they do. Their optimism, courage, and work ethic are what we need to redirect the current social-economic climate. We understand the role of education. We are totally aware of the high responsibility that this entitles. As CEO of Laureate International Universities in Europe, I would like to reiterate the commitment of our institution to European society and the education of its youth, a commitment that began exactly 14 years ago in this university, Universidad Europea. The Laureate Europe network is present in Cyprus, France, Germany, Italy, Morocco, Portugal, Turkey, Switzerland, United Kingdom, and Spain. We operate a total of 24 universities whose students will eventually make their way into the job market. Our students choose Laureate University because they want to receive an education from us and positively value our academic offer, faculty, and the resources we provide to help them to develop to their full potential. Our thanks go to all of them. And thanks also to the leaders of our European University for the excellent work they are doing to turn our institution into authentic platform for employability. A good example of our professional focus is on Universidad Europea, which has 3 universities in Spain: Universidad Europea Madrid, Universidad Europea Valencia, Universidad Europea Canarias. According to employment figures from last year, 90% of Universidad Europea graduates found work within the first year of graduating. This study, conducted by Millward, provides us with data of great interest and helps us to monitor the success of our educational model. That revealed that this is the model we must continue to mold. That is, defining the successful professional and putting it in the center of everything we do. More than 16,000 students studied at this university, making us the largest private university in Spain. The qualities that set us apart are internationality, connection to the professional world, and academic quality, with a clear student-centered focus. For us, offering a holistic education and fully developing our student competencies are fundamental to helping them reach their full potential. If anything makes our graduates stand out, it's their capacity for teamwork, communication, and creativity, skills that are highly valued by employers, as I am sure we'll see throughout the day on the expert panel with several representatives from the business world. In addition to this panel of experts comprised of employers, today we will offer 2 other panels where government representatives and educational leaders will debate the issue of youth and employment. These 3 panels will address several issues that are critical to employment and education. In addition, we want the audience, you, to participate in this unique event. Hence, you will have the chance to pose questions to members of the 3 panel of experts who will be on stage today. And before finishing, I would like to introduce the next speaker, Mario Simon. Mario is the president of Millward brand Optimor and has led worldwide expansion of the company, which is now doing business in countries such as the United States, the United Kingdom, China, Mexico, and Brazil. During his career, Mario has held positions of great responsibility in companies of the caliber of McKinsey & Company in New York and became co-founder of BBDO Consulting in London. Mario holds a PhD from Yale University. His vision and experience have led him to work in a range of sectors such as fast-moving consumer goods, technology, education, financial services, hospitality, and health, among others. So without further ado, I leave you with Mario Simon, who will share his analysis of employment figures in Europe. Thank you very much, and we look forward to a productive day. Gracias. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Miguel. Good morning, everyone. This topic of today's meeting is very close to my heart. I am passionate about Europe. I come from Greece, one of the hardest hit countries in terms of this issue that we're talking about today, this very important issue. I'm also very passionate about education. I started my work life as a lecturer in academia. So when Doug came up with this great initiative of bringing great minds together, we thought that it was a great opportunity for us to really come in and step in and give as much of the support that we have for this topic. From the perspective of a leader that runs a business internationally, I see the value of education on a daily basis in helping people live meaningful lives, love what they do, and fulfill their full potential. So as a result, what we did was we did a little study that actually looks at different employability rates across Europe. This sample that we are using is representative, so all the results that you're going to see here are statistically robust. And we took a mix of countries that are hardest hit from the recession, as well as others that have fared slightly better, just to understand what is the role of education and higher education in the metrics that matter the most to our youth. What we see is that young adults with university degrees actually fare better. They're able to find jobs more often. They're also able to have salaries and wages that are higher. And also, we see that they're more satisfied with their jobs. When we look at level of education and employment status, we know that employers look for experienced workers rather than taking a gamble for new employees. And so what happens is that that is a global thing that we see all around the world. Even in the United States, unemployment across youth is actually twice as high as the one for more experienced people. But we do see that people who with a university degree have actually 10 percentage points more likelihood that they're going to have a full-time job. So that underscores the value of education quite a bit. When we look at income range, what we will see is that the salary numbers that come from our survey clearly show that they're at the lower area. So actually, there is quite a bit of underemployment across all tiers that we interviewed and surveyed. And the persistent underemployment actually causes what many people have called the lost generation, which we absolutely need to do everything we can, and in this room today we are, to make sure that this does not happen. Still, what we see is that university educated people tend to have higher salaries by quite a bit, actually. The toll of the recession is not only economic, it is also psychological. And what we wanted to do in the survey that we ran was to make sure that we not only look at the economic variables, so things like full-time employability, such as the income levels that people are able to garner, but also look at how well they're satisfied in what they're doing in their jobs and with their salaries. And what we see across the board is that, again, you have a plus 10 percentage points increase in those levels of satisfaction that come from people with university degrees. The next thing that we looked at is field of study and study abroad, because we really wanted to understand how field of study really plays into all of this, as well as experiences that people have in a more diverse environment. How does that really have an impact? And what we look at is studying abroad actually leads to people feeling much more prepared for a job abroad, and also more prepared for a multinational company. Specifically, when we think about brain drain, when we think about jobs migrating, people leaving, going to the countries as far as Brazil or as close as Germany, what we see is that there is quite a bit of feeling that people are more prepared when they actually have a degree rather than when they don't. When looking at field of study, the areas that we see that are most employable are in the technical fields, engineering, IT, and the like. And so when we look at salaries commanded, business degrees and technical degrees are the ones that command higher salaries than other kinds of degrees, which is expected, but it is interesting to look at the variance of that. The last area that we looked into in the research that we did was about private institutions and how they help. So what we found, the headline here is that private institutions complement the public education in strengthening the labor markets. Specifically, when we look at the numbers, private university students are more likely to have full-time jobs by about 11 points. And they're also more likely to earn more by about 30%. So that just says that education is important, and private education is part of the solution in the bigger picture. On the psychological front, when we look at public and private universities, what we look at is that people feel more prepared, both in terms of being ready for their current jobs and what they're doing, as well as getting ready for a job abroad. So what we see is that higher education is a key component to recovery. It better prepares our youth for the challenges that they're about to face. It has tangible benefits: higher employment, higher income levels, higher satisfaction levels. It creates meaningful paths for people to follow. And another thing that we saw is that exposure to study abroad and private education magnifies these benefits. I am certain that today's discussion will have a real impact on how to leverage education for a better future for all of us and for our youth, most importantly. Thank you.